Loneliness is a curse. That's what they've told you. They say if you're alone, something's wrong with you. Society paints it as this unbearable burden, a sign that you're not enough. But let me tell you something, it's all a lie. Loneliness is not your weakness. It's your greatest strength waiting to be unleashed. Think about it. The most powerful men in history, visionaries, leaders, creators, didn't rise by drowning in distractions or surrounding themselves with crowds. They embraced solitude. Isolation wasn't their downfall, it was their power source. Yet today, men are conditioned to fear being alone. You're told that being surrounded by people or constantly validated is what defines your value. But here's the hard truth. Most people settle for shallow connections because they're too scared to face themselves. But loneliness, it's brutal honesty. It strips away the noise, the excuses, and the lies you tell yourself. It forces you to confront who you are at your core. That kind of clarity is rare, and it's priceless. Yet most men waste it. They numb the pain with distractions. Endless scrolling, cheap thrills, meaningless relationships. What if, instead of running from it, you harnessed it? Imagine transforming isolation into a crucible, a place where you forge your vision, sharpen your discipline, and build an unshakable foundation for your life. Because here's the secret, the man who masters solitude becomes unstoppable. He no longer depends on the world to define him. He defines himself. This video isn't just about coping with loneliness. It's about flipping the script entirely. By the time we're done, you'll see why your loneliness isn't a burden, but a gift. A tool that, when used wisely, can set you apart from everyone else. So if you've ever felt disconnected, if you've ever looked around and thought, I don't belong here, this is for you. Because maybe you don't. Maybe you're meant for something greater. And that path, it starts with embracing the solitude you've been running from. Let's get into it. Most men see loneliness as a punishment, a cruel twist of fate meant to break them. But what if loneliness is trying to shake you awake? It's not a punishment, it's a sign. It's your life screaming, something isn't right. When you're surrounded by distractions, friends who don't challenge you, meaningless conversations, or constant noise, it's easy to ignore what's actually happening inside you. Loneliness strips all that away and forces you to face the truth. Here's the reality. Loneliness doesn't mean you're failing. It means you've outgrown the life you're living. The relationships, routines, or even mindset you had before, they don't fit you anymore. You feel lonely because you're no longer satisfied with the surface level. That discomfort is your call to step up, to stop settling and start building a life that truly aligns with who you are. Picture this, a man who's always been part of the crowd, a constant people pleaser. He's at every party, always saying yes and surrounded by people. But one day he finds himself sitting alone on a Saturday night, his phone silent. No one's calling, no invites, just silence. At first he panics. What happened? Did he mess up? Is something wrong? But as the weeks go by, he starts to realize something powerful. Those people weren't helping him grow. They were distractions, keeping him from focusing on what really matters. With time alone, he starts writing again, something he gave up years ago. He begins to hit the gym, finally working on himself, instead of trying to fit into someone else's expectations. The loneliness didn't destroy him. It woke him up to everything he'd been avoiding. Loneliness is uncomfortable because it forces you to take inventory of your life. It highlights what's missing, but it also shows what's possible. When you stop fearing loneliness and start listening to it, you'll discover it's not there to break you. It's there to guide you toward your best self. Not all friendships are good for you. In fact, most of them are chains disguised as comfort. Society loves to glorify having a big circle. The more friends, the better, they say. But let's be honest, how many of those friendships are actually helping you grow? The hard truth is, most friendships keep you stuck, holding on to mediocrity because they're built on convenience, not purpose. Look around at your friends. How many of them challenge you to be better? How many of them call you out when you're slacking? Or are they just there to hang out, party, and waste time? The friendships that hold you back are the ones that prioritize comfort over progress. keep you distracted from your goals, encouraging you to settle for good enough instead of aiming higher. Here's the thing, men thrive on purpose, not popularity. If your friendships aren't pushing you toward your purpose, they're pulling you away from it. And the truth is, breaking free from those friendships can be one of the loneliest things you'll ever do. But it's also the most liberating. Think about a guy who's always surrounded by the same group of friends. Every weekend, it's the same routine. Drinking, joking around, and talking about the same stories from years ago. But deep down, he feels stuck. He's been wanting to start a business, hit the gym, or learn a new skill. Yet every time he tries, his friends laugh it off, telling him to relax or stop trying so hard. Eventually, he realizes that their comfort zone is holding him captive. When he finally distances himself, it's tough. He's alone more often, and the silence feels heavy. But in that space, he starts building. He creates a plan for his business, spends his weekends learning, and surrounds himself with mentors who push him forward. Slowly, he realizes those friends weren't supporting him. They were holding him back. Most friendships are built on staying the same. But if you want to grow, you need people who push you to evolve, not stay stagnant. Cutting those ties isn't betrayal, it's survival. Silence is terrifying for most men. We're used to noise, constant conversations, notifications, music, and chatter. The world teaches you to fear silence because it forces you to face what's inside. But here's the secret. Silence is where your strength is born. In the quiet, there's no place to hide. You can't distract yourself from your doubts, fears, or insecurities. You're left alone with your thoughts, and that's where the real work begins. It's uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is the very thing that sharpens you. Silence becomes your training ground, a place where you learn to wrestle with your inner demons and come out stronger on the other side. Think about it. How often do you sit in complete silence? No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and your mind. It's rare because it's hard. Most men avoid it because it feels empty, but in reality, it's full of potential. Silence is where clarity happens. It's where you start to figure out who you are and what you truly want, without the noise of the world telling you otherwise. When you embrace silence, you begin to notice things you've ignored for years. Patterns in your behavior, your real desires, and even the toxic influences in your life become painfully clear. This is why silence isn't weakness, it's a tool. It forces you to confront your reality and gives you the space to design a better one. Most men run from silence, but those who face it head-on find something incredible: strength. Not the loud, flashy kind that the world notices, but the quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from truly knowing yourself. Silence isn't your enemy, it's your proving ground. Too many men are trapped by their hunger for validation. You post a picture, hoping for likes. You crack a joke, waiting for the laugh. You buy things you don't need just to impress people who don't matter. The truth? Validation is a drug, and most men are addicted. It keeps you chasing approval instead of chasing your purpose. Here's the harsh reality. Needing validation is weakness. It makes you dependent on the opinions of others, and that dependence robs you of your power. You spend your time wondering, do they like me? Am I good enough? When you should be asking yourself, am I living the life I want? Most men waste their energy trying to fit into someone else's mold instead of breaking it. It's time to wake up. The people you're trying to impress don't care as much as you think they do. They're too busy worrying about themselves to notice your efforts. And even if they do, their approval is temporary. You'll need more and more to feel worthy, and it's a never-ending cycle. That's not strength. That's slavery. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you you're enough. Decide it for yourself. Be the man who doesn't need the applause, who doesn't care about fitting in. The man who knows his worth even when no one else sees it. That's real freedom. Validation isn't what makes you valuable. Your actions, your discipline, your purpose, those are what define you. Break free from the need to be seen and focus on being solid. Solid men don't beg for approval. They build their lives in silence and let their results speak. It's time to stop looking for others to validate you. Validate yourself. Most Most men fear being alone. Solitude feels like rejection, like you're missing out or being left behind. But that fear is the very reason so many men stay stuck. They run from solitude instead of realizing what it truly is. A weapon, a tool that can transform your life if you know how to use it. Solitude isn't emptiness, it's freedom. It's the chance to step away from the noise and focus entirely on yourself. When no one's around to judge you, distract you, or influence your decisions, you're left with pure, uninterrupted time. And that time is priceless. In solitude, you can reflect on your life, identify what's working and what's not, and create a plan to move forward. That's the beginning of real power. The problem is, most men waste their solitude. They numb themselves with social media, gaming, or meaningless entertainment. They convince themselves they're relaxing when, in reality, they're running from their own thoughts. But true growth happens when you face yourself head-on. Solitude forces you to confront the man you are right now and ask, am I proud of this? If the answer is no, that's your wake-up call. Imagine what would happen if you used your alone time differently. Instead of scrolling or daydreaming, you commit to action. You work on your goals, improve your skills, or plan your next move. Solitude gives you the focus to do this without distractions. That kind of focus is rare, and it's what separates average men from extraordinary ones. The truth is, the strongest men in history thrived in solitude. They used it to build, to plan, and to grow. They didn't fear being alone. They craved it because they knew it was where their strength came from. Your solitude isn't a punishment. It's not something to escape. It's your greatest opportunity to grow into the man you've always wanted to be. Use it wisely and it becomes your superpower, one that most men will never understand. When you stop fearing solitude and start embracing it, you'll unlock a strength that makes you unstoppable. The choice is yours. Waste it or weaponize it. Here's the reality. Loneliness isn't a problem to fix. It's an opportunity to embrace. You've been taught to fear it, to run from it, to fill the empty spaces with distractions. But what if everything you've been told about loneliness is wrong? What if this curse is the one thing standing between you and your true potential? When you stop seeing loneliness as a threat and start seeing it as a tool, that's when everything changes. You stop relying on others for your happiness, validation, or purpose. You stop looking for the next party or the next distraction to fill the void. Instead, you turn inward. You start to build yourself, not because you have to, but because you want to. You realize that loneliness isn't something to escape. It's a blessing in disguise. When you learn to thrive in solitude, you build an unshakable foundation. You learn to depend on yourself, to push through discomfort, and to make your own decisions without needing approval. This self-sufficiency is power. The man who has mastered loneliness has also mastered his mind, his emotions, and his life. The truth is, most men will never understand this. They'll keep seeking validation, filling their lives with noise and avoiding solitude because they're too afraid to face themselves. But you're different. You're willing to step into the silence and do the hard work it takes to become the best version of yourself. Loneliness is the crucible where you forge your strength. It's where you face your demons, confront your weaknesses, and build your greatest potential. It's where you discover who you truly are and what you're capable of. So the next time you feel that loneliness creeping in, don't run from it. Don't try to fill the void. Embrace it. Recognize it for what it is, a powerful tool that's shaping you into the man you were always meant to be. Loneliness isn't your enemy. It's your greatest ally. Use it wisely and there's nothing you can't achieve.